Okay, welcome to the show. I'm your host, guys. This is Eric Beltran, inside the world of women's soccer. Today, with us, we have a special guest, Ivy Garner. She's a sophomore on the Liberty women's soccer team. So, Ivy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, like I said, Ivy's a sophomore. She'll begin her second year with us this fall. Freshman year went pretty good. Second team all conference, ASA and all freshmen. I think you were the second highest in-stat rated player in our conference. So it's a really good start to your career. I know it seems like a long time ago now, but talk to us about last fall, how it went, getting acclimated, obviously excitement with your first season, and things like that.
Yeah, last fall was we had a great season. Going into it, I felt really good, really fit, and then I actually sprained my ankle in preseason. So that was like a little bit of a bump in the road. But honestly, I think that was good for me because it allowed me to just kind of like rest and just look into the season in like a fresh perspective, and it really motivated me for what was to come and just to get back and get back on the field. So I think I was back within a couple months. And yeah, we had a great season. Obviously, we won the regular season and we lost in the tournament. But, there's almost more positive that you can take away from a loss, which is really interesting when you think about it. You wouldn't think that's the case. But looking back on it, I think like losing in that tournament actually brought us closer as a team. It allowed us to just like really be there for each other through that loss. And it also motivated us a lot for the spring and for the next fall. So that was huge for us. And at the same time, it just reminded us that our worth is in soccer, and that kind of loss can shake you a lot, but then it just makes you remember that your worth and identity is in soccer, and that's just so important to remember. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know a couple months ago we had an episode specifically about injuries with one of your teammates, Sally. And so, yeah, it's cool that to hear, high level athletes such as yourself saying, kind of gives you perspective, right? And I think obviously I got a first row seat to that, but Ivy, you stewarded your time away from the game really well. And so I just want to say I'm proud of you, impressed by you, and all these things.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Now you alluded to it a little bit, but obviously, heartbreaking loss and penalties in the conference championship kind of put a little bit of fire on our bellies. But talk to us about what's next, right? Obviously, Liberty's moving into a new conference, Conference USA, a little bit maybe more established conference, recognizable conference. So kind of talk to us about, what are you excited about? A lot of players and teams are starting their preseason here soon. And so, yeah, excitement to jump back into it, kind of like have you recharge the batteries? What are you looking forward to? And aspirations for the new conference?
Yeah. Like I said, a loss can be really good because it's just motivating. I think that was the case for our team. We're really excited. We were really excited for the spring, and then the spring made us even more excited for the upcoming fall. And change is good. So, going into this new conference, we're going to be playing new teams, new competition. I can't really speak on what the level difference is in terms of skill level, but there's challenges that come with any team, no matter the level. So I think we're just really excited for change and really excited for a new fall with extra girls and new faces. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Absolutely. Kind of want to segue a little bit into your personal journey to Liberty. Okay. And so I know really well-known, renowned youth club career at NC Courage, right? And you actually joined us in the spring of last year. And so it was kind of unexpected on, I guess, both of our ends, but kind of talk to us a little bit about your process, how'd you hear about Liberty and how you ended up here?
Yeah. So my process was kind of a crazy one, completely unexpected, kind of all over the place. So let's see, where can we start? So in 2020, I graduated high school a semester early, and I was committed to play at NC State. I was supposed to be going there in the spring of 21, so January. And so I was a couple weeks from moving in there, and I was playing pickup, just training with my brother. And he actually played at UNC, so we were playing pickup over there. UNC was always a dream school of mine, pretty much for the soccer program only. And I'm going to be honest, it was just always my dream soccer school. And so I really soon after decommitted from NC State, like a week before I was supposed to be moving in hopes that I would have a chance with UNC. And so I started talking to the coaches a little bit, and they invited me to come to an ID camp that spring. And so I went to the ID camp and was so excited and everything. And I ended up playing like the worst I've ever played in my life. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening to me. I wasn't necessarily nervous going in. I was probably a little bit nervous, but I didn't feel overwhelmed by nerves. It was just kind of out of nowhere. Like I wasn't playing the way I knew how to play. I was very distracted. I wasn't at peace with anything. And so long story short, that fell through. And at that point, I didn't have anywhere to go to school. So now it's summer of 2021, and I'm left with nowhere to go to school to play soccer. And that whole situation kind of just messed up my relationship with soccer. I didn't really want to play anymore. It just caused me so much hurt that I didn't really want anything to do with it. And so that just brought me closer to the Lord, because I felt like I had lost like a huge part of me. And so I really started leaning on the Lord in that time and just praying about what my next steps were going to be, because I felt so lost and just so empty without soccer. And so I just started telling myself and talking to my mom about how I just wanted to go to a college with Christian, like-minded people. Like I didn't want anything to do with a soccer piece at that point. I just wanted to be focused in school, be somewhere where I can be with Christian people and continue to grow in my faith. That's when I was really starting to get close to the Lord. And God put Liberty on my mom's heart, and she mentioned it to me. She said that it was on her heart, and I immediately was like, wow, like it just like felt right to hear her say that. And so at that point, we were talking about Liberty and applying there, and still nothing to do with soccer. And so I applied to Liberty online, and I got in soon after. And my mom was like, Ivy, you're going to want to play soccer. Like, you're going to miss it. And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, just trust me, you are. She was like, just reach out to the coach, send him an email, see if you can like be a practice player or just like maybe walk on. Just see what you can do to get involved, because you're gonna want to stay active and you're gonna want to play. Just trust me. And so I said, okay. It was late at night, and so I sent Coach Lang an email, not with any high expectations, and he emailed me back soon after and told me that he would love to have me for an official visit, and basically welcomed me with open arms. And it was just incredible. Like I can't even like really talk about it and like explain it well, because just looking back, it's the way it all happened is it's only God can make that happen. Just so many doors were closing. And I just had no idea what was going on. And I was just so broken, so hurt by everything that was happening. And then God just gave me something that was 100 million times better that I could have never imagined. And it's just such an amazing testimony to the fact that he is so in control and he is so good and he knows what's best for us. And so we just have to trust what he is doing in our lives. And it's really, really hard in the moment. And it's easy for me to say this looking back, but I try to really trust him that he's in control, because I've seen it so many times in my life that he has given me something better than I could have ever imagined. And so, so I ended up at Liberty the next spring, so 22 spring. And now I'm here.
Yeah. And obviously we love having you part of the program. I think you've been fantastic. Your level of buy-in has been unmatched. But yeah, I mean, I've heard that story before, but it still resonates with me, and so obviously one of the main reasons I wanted to have you, because I think it's unique, it's uniquely you. But there, you tell that story and it's like 3 or 4 minutes, but really that's like a 1.5-year process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the fact that he was working behind the scenes to allow you to get past some of that initial hurt and pain is really cool, right? I mean, just total testament to how good he is. But thanks for sharing that. So now I kind of want to open it up to advice you have for current prospects. Okay, and so I know you mentioned Lang and the staff were welcoming, and so like what advice would you give? Last month was our first day that we could talk to 2025 recruits. Okay, so these relationships are starting to be established. What advice would you give to them? What should they be looking for? What questions should they be asking from their next home, I guess?
Yeah, I think something so important and something that stood out to me so much about Liberty is just how caring the coaches are. Like I've never seen it, never like at a club level, at different colleges, never seen coaches that truly want a relationship with their players and want to show that they care about them the way that you guys do. And I'm not just saying that, like it's remarkable. I've talked to all the girls about it. They all say the same thing. You guys are so intentional in your relationships on and off the field, but almost more off the field, which is huge. And I think that is so important for the girls to really lean into and take advantage of that and be open with you guys. And I know it's tough when you're coming in and it's scary, but just being vulnerable. Coach Lang talks about that all the time. There's so much power in vulnerability. It just deepens relationships. So if they can come in with open minds, come in, be vulnerable, and just be trusting in you guys and really allow that relationship to grow and nourish before the soccer piece comes in, I think that's gonna be huge for our team. That's gonna be huge for our culture. That's gonna be huge for our team chemistry, and that's everything on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I think you nailed it. I think there's some strength to vulnerability, and obviously, like whether it's peer to peer, so you to another teammate, or coach to you, like if we have that relational equity, those points and that tough love is gonna stick a little bit harder, right? Because we've developed that, and so cool to hear you say that. For sure, prospects should be looking for that in whichever staff they end up choosing. But you mentioned this a little bit with nerves when you were talking about the ID camp, but even in your freshman year, like you started on the road and scored against Pitt, very good team, right? You've played substantial minutes against, they were ranked 11th at the time on the road, Penn State. You started all three of our conference tournament games. And so kind of talk to us a little bit about, the mentality, the psyche, maybe give some practical tips to players to perform at a big stage, right? Obviously there's nerves every time you jump a level. But just talk to us a little bit about this, because I feel like, you have produced in some of these games and you can be a big game player. So talk to us about maybe some of the mentality approaching an opponent or a stage like that.
Yeah. I think this is something that I've struggled with a lot. So I can't believe I'm speaking to this, but I'll give some tips on things that I have done myself. So I know that but I'll tell everyone else that I am like huge on the mind and thoughts, and just the idea that your thoughts are so powerful. And so I think something that I have learned to tell myself before being in those big games is just reminding myself that those girls put their pants on the same way I do. We're all the same in that way. You can't, obviously that doesn't take away from their soccer ability. They're excellent soccer players. They're excellent athletes. It doesn't take away from that at all. But you have to put yourself on the same level. Otherwise, if you go into the game with the mindset that they are better than you are below them, that's how you're going to play. So whatever you are focusing on is what's going to happen. So if you're focusing on don't mess up, you're going to mess up. That's what happens every time. And that's what I've seen in myself. But if you focus on take that player on, do this, do that, like that's what's going to happen, because your mind is just so powerful. And I can't stress that enough. And so I think just reframing, people talk about like reframing past situations, but I think the idea of like pre-framing situations in front of you is so important for those games. And that comes with self-talk and just telling yourself how you're going to feel instead of listening to yourself. So you have to tell yourself the thoughts that you want to feel going into that game. And that's affirmations. That's I am powerful. I am athletic. I can take players on. I am capable. I can score. Like telling yourself that. Don't give yourself any room to think otherwise. And as Coach Lang talks about a lot, like the mental imagery, just imagining yourself in those situations beforehand, that's huge. And then the breathing also is huge. And that's something that we do just to relax ourselves in high pressure moments. And that can be done before the game, during, it can be done pretty much all the time. And that's been huge for me, just getting my heart rate down in those high pressure situations. That's really important. So yeah, those are a few things that I can think of off the top of my head. But the main thing I would say is the self-talk and just putting yourself on their level before the game begins. Because once the game starts, it's high speed. So you have to do it beforehand. You have to prepare yourself. You have to pre-frame your mindset for those games.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. I think the self-talk is so important, because And you've heard it said before, but like some of the things we say to ourselves, we wouldn't dare say to our a teammate, you know. And so why would we let those negative thoughts creep in internally, right? And so very practical. I appreciate that, and I'm sure some of our viewers will as well. Ivy, kind of want to go into a little bit about your work rate, okay? And so, you know, people will have the chance to see you in action this fall. But you know, even on the training pitch, I think you bring a lot to the table in terms of your work rate. So obviously, we wear our heart rate monitors, we wear our GPS pods. But even without that data, I'm constantly asking some of your teammates at the end of sessions, like, okay, who do you think worked the hardest today? And your name is always on the tip of their tongues. And so I think, you know, credit to you. But people are noticing, right? And so kind of, you know, for maybe youth players that struggle with that, where does that stem from your perspective? And, you know, what are some things that they can do to push themselves? Because I know you love pushing your body. I know you love testing limits. So kind of talk a little bit about where that stems from.
Yeah. I feel like my work rate is something that I've always kind of had growing up, but it's really grown this past year ever since I've been in college. And I really think that stems from seeing the people around me. My mom is the hardest worker I know. And my family in general, my boyfriend, just seeing those people, it's so inspiring to see the way that they work. And just the mindset that every day is a new day for growth, and every session is a new session for growth. And you have to go into it expecting growth and wanting that. Otherwise, I think you're wasting your time. And kind of the idea that I tap into is that our minds will always go before our bodies do. So you can always push yourself a little bit harder, and just trying to remind yourself of that whenever you're feeling like you're tired or you want to quit or whatever, just reminding yourself that you can always go a little bit harder. Your mind is just trying to tell you that you're tired. Obviously there is a limit where you should stop because you're going to get hurt, but that's not always the case. So just remembering that, and just going into every session wanting to get better, and knowing that you're there to push your teammates and you're there to set an example to those around you. Even if you don't think that you're influencing anyone, you are, by your body language, by everything that you're doing is affecting those around you, your energy. So I take that on in every session, that it's really not for me, it's for everyone around me. I just want to make the girls around me better. I want to encourage them. I want to work hard for them. I want to be better for them, because ultimately it's for our team. So yeah, I think just going into the training with that kind of mindset is really important.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is really important, because, you know, the question I asked you previous and this question I just asked you now, like it all ties back to your mindset. It all ties back to the mental part of the game, right? And so definitely can't stress that enough. And happy that you're hitting that pretty hard. And so I don't think we've had a winger on the show before, but obviously, like, that's where you're most comfortable with. And so talk to us a little bit about that position specifically. Okay. So like, what do you think makes up a good winger? Obviously, tactically within other people's systems, you know, they might ask different things. They might ask you to track back a little bit further, this, that, and the other. They might ask you to, you know, stay a little bit closer to the touchline. But, you know, generally speaking, what do you think makes a good winger? What do you think the components are? And, you know, maybe some of the things you enjoy about that position.
Yeah, there are definitely a few main things that come to mind. I think the first thing is fitness. That position requires a lot of running, and in the past I have not had the best fitness. So when you don't have the best fitness, you can't make the runs, and you really can't be productive. So that's really, really important, just to be fit enough to run up and down the line and make runs, take players on. And that leads me into the second thing, just the ability to take players on 1v1. That's super important for a winger, because that's pretty much what you're going to be doing the whole game, taking players on, getting crosses off, getting shots off. And then I'd say just shooting and crossing ability in general, just having a good skill set with just getting shots off and crosses, and obviously finishing, defending. That's huge, because you have to track back, like you said. Depends on your formation or your team is that tells you how far you need to track back, but that's definitely going to be important in that position. And yeah, I think one of my favorite things in the position is just taking players on. That's something I've always loved to do, just 1v1, going at players down the line. So yeah, that's something that I've always capitalized on and really tried to develop that because that's just one of my strengths, and just being able to get crosses off. So
Yeah, no doubt. I think, and you demonstrate this really well, but to be a winger, sometimes I feel like you got to be pretty selfless, right? And so like you might make that 40-yard sprint on the sideline hoping to get the ball and it never comes, right? But you still have got to make that run to draw that defender with you to open up space for the person that ended up penetrating through the midfield, right? And so defending, another big thing I think sometimes these players maybe take for granted, but obviously like you'll have such an ability to win the ball high up the field. So why not, right? Even though you're an attacking player, the defensive piece is so important, right? Um, Now, lastly, kind of just want to open up the floor to you. Okay. So obviously, I know you talked about some of the things that are maybe near and dear to your heart, but any other final remarks, anything you want to say to the audience? If not, then that's fine and I'll crop this out. But the floor is all yours.
just you asking that, I was just thinking, what's on my heart? Honestly, one thing on my heart right now is just be rooted in the Lord through anything. If you're a soccer player, if you're any kind of athlete, if you just work a job, like the main thing is just to be rooted in the Lord, find your identity in Him, find your worth in Him, because everything else in this world will come and go. And we cannot put our worth in anything other than Him, because we'll just find ourselves broken and hurt, like I was in my story that led me to Liberty. And so, yeah, just really find your identity in Him and root yourself in His word.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Such true words. And obviously I know your faith journey is so near and dear to you. So appreciate you being vulnerable, opening up. I'm sure the audience can definitely benefit from it. So here's what I'm going to do, Ivy. I'm going to, if you're okay with it, I'm going to link your Instagram and your email into the comments below. Okay. And so guys, we appreciate you. Obviously we wouldn't be doing this without y'all. We kind of just aim to grow the women's game, right? I think it's something that's taken off like rapid fire. It's obviously something that I think is underrepresented and undercovered. And so that's kind of my aim, right? I think Ivy's got a special story that's worthy of being told. And so, yeah, make sure you like, follow, subscribe. The season is going to be ramping up here soon. So lots of content to come, but special thanks to Ivy for your time today.
Thank you, Eric.